there, good evening to the For Her Chat show. And we are recording, we're not live this evening, we are having some technical issues, which is frustrating, but Facebook and Zoom guards aren't being good to us this evening. So I'm joined by Lesley from Time Norfolk, and we're talking all about Baby Loss Awareness Week this evening. So I'll let Lesley just introduce herself and we will chat from there. So take it away, please, Lesley.
Good evening. My name is Lesley Bradfield. I'm the director of a charity called Time Norfolk. Time Norfolk is based in Norwich, and we see men and women who have suffered a pregnancy loss. Now that can be for termination, miscarriage, stillbirth, termination for abnormality, infertility, pre- and postnatal depression. So it covers a wide area, and you may be wondering why infertility is included in that. But if you think about it, when a woman finds that she cannot have any children, then indeed that's a loss for her herself. So that is included in a loss as well. So Time Norfolk is been going for about nearly 20 years now. And when Time Norfolk first started, we were predominantly working with people who were in crisis, which means the woman who is pregnant and not sure what to do about it. So most of the work was around that sort of issue. But now the whole thing has changed. So we probably do about 5% of crisis work. And the rest of our work is helping people who have suffered a pregnancy loss. And what I like to say is that actually we have time to listen to people. We have time for them to grieve with us, and we have time for them to heal. So it's about giving men and women, because we see men as well, hope after a pregnancy loss. Because one of the main words that we hear in the counselling room after a loss is, I feel helpless and hopeless. So we feel that we need to give women and men hope after a loss and enable them to move forward with their lives when they've done the work that is needed on the loss.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much for that, Lesley. It's amazing that insight into what you do. Just picking out there about you say that you also focus on infertility problems, which I wasn't fully aware of, to be honest with you. And thinking about that, and I'm just thinking of my experiences with that, losing babies, because it's a funny word, that loss, isn't it? But I suppose it is very, very difficult for outsiders to understand that infertility still has a massive impact on a couple and a woman, and their sort of feelings, and sort of that they can't fulfill their roles as men and women and to be parents. So that is definitely a loss, whereas people from the outside might not understand that. So really my question is, what advice would you give people going through infertility issues, if they're sort of, when they're approached by people from who don't understand it and sort of have quite negative comments? So I have witnessed that quite a lot.
Well, I think it's when people are experiencing infertility, because what we've got to think of is when somebody is unable to conceive a baby, for them, if they're diagnosed as definitely being infertile, and maybe they've been trying for babies for a long time, then they've gone down the IVF route. Maybe they've had the maximum 4 attempts on IVF and it's still not happening, or maybe they've become pregnant during IVF but lost that baby. It's all about, you've come to the end of the road without, it's that word hope again, isn't it? You haven't got that hope. And because people can't see anything that's wrong with you, it's difficult for people to understand that. And we're very much in this country a society where we don't want to talk about baby loss. We can sweep it under the carpet. We don't want to talk about it. And if you have lost a baby, then it can be, well, okay, you can have another one. That's okay. But a woman will say, yes, I know I can, hopefully, but I've lost this baby, and it was this baby that I wanted. But with infertility, what I would say to people is, if you are really struggling with infertility and the consequences of it, then you do need to go and speak to somebody and try and get some help. And if you're around the Norfolk area, then obviously that is one of the things that Time Norfolk will help you with and support you with.
Fabulous. Yeah, I think touching on what you then said about you do hear so many, especially people who haven't been through a loss themselves, you know, or you do hear so many different sort of people just shrug it off as oh, I know when I had losses with trying to conceive my second child, it was very very much oh well, you've got one, you should be, you know, you're lucky that you've got one, you know. And I thought, yeah, I know I'm really lucky, I know, but part of my reason for having another one was a sibling for her. So I think that never made it any easier. And you hear these, you know, oh, that's all right, you can try again, or oh, you know, when you do eventually have a baby, it'll be you'll be happy you've lost this one, and all these really bizarre things that really people shouldn't be saying to people that have just lost, you know. Or also the classic one, or oh well, with it, you know, it was only a fetus, it wasn't a real baby, and things like that. But I suppose my point I'm trying to make is that people who haven't been through it don't understand that it is like grieving. You know, it's still a death to that, you know, those parents, the mother and the father, and
Definitely
it's a
is.
difficult time. Yeah.
So I think, you know, there are other things, as you say, Serena. Well, you're young, you can have another one. And as I said a little while ago, that's not the point. It's not wanting to replace the lost baby. So therefore, you've got to grieve for that baby. And I think people don't understand. They don't understand that when you become pregnant, you're automatically full of hopes and dreams. You know, the hope starts for this baby. The dreams start. Is it going to be a boy and a girl or girl? You know, what's it going to be like when it's this age? And it's an automatic response to parents, more so the mother, because the mother will bond with a baby when they're pregnant, and sometimes dad doesn't bond so much until baby is born. But you know, it's when you have a loss, all those hopes and dreams that have been stored within you, they're gone. Absolutely, you know, that day you have that loss, the hopes and dreams go with it. And for me, grief is grief, whoever we lose. But when you lose a baby, the difference being is that if you lose a loved one that you've actually known, you have all your memories, and those memories were alive for a period of time. When you lose a baby, your hopes and dreams are taken away from you, and you have nothing at the end. You don't have those memories. You don't have anything in real life that you can store within your head to go to, as we all do when we lose a mother or a father, or, you know, a partner. So it's very different. And that's because those hopes and dreams are taken away from you, which we all have when we become pregnant and as we go along the pregnancy, and then there's nothing. So if you have a stillbirth, for instance, and you have to deliver that baby, you may then have to come away. You may have gone into hospital knowing that you were pregnant and going to have a baby. Then it can be that the baby was stillborn, and you then have to leave that hospital without any baby, and you may happen to be walking out from the hospital, and there may be another mum and dad that's coming out with the baby carrier and the baby. Well, you know, for all of you out there that have got children and babies, you know, imagine how that must feel when you're coming away and there's no baby for you to take home. It's a huge subject. It's out there much more now, although we're very much a society that doesn't want to talk about it. It is getting out there a lot more. You have members of parliament that are holding their hands up and saying, I had a loss, and people are beginning to talk about it a lot more. The need seems to be greater than ever before. Our figures are up by 65% over the last 2 years on people that are making contact with us who've suffered some form of loss. So it's definitely out there more, but is still in a lot of areas a taboo subject that we don't want to talk about. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's the elephant in the room, and people don't know how to handle it. So yeah, it's still that taboo subject in a lot of places.
Yeah, I think that's very true, and I think from just touching upon what you said there, Lesley, about that it's that elephant in the room, and it's only when, like, I didn't realise certain relatives or friends or you know, people who I knew a lot about and was really close to, I didn't realise that, you know, maybe they had problems with fertility, so that's why they never had children, or maybe, you know, they'd had losses in the past and it was never talked about, and then, you know, this is like my mum's generation and before then, and it had never been talked about, and you know, I found out I could have had cousins and, you know, different things like that, and it's only when you actually are going through it yourself, usually, where you know, you then speak out. You know, I've been very open with the three that I've lost along the way, and I've been very open about that. And it's only when I've talked about it, then people have said, "Oh yeah, I've gone through that," or you know, I've had that experience, or, you know, that was like this for me. And I think it is just about doing things like this, and the really good work you do, where you actually encourage people to talk about it and voice it, you know, even if it's not publicly, just someone they know, to be able to share this, what they're feeling, is really important, isn't it? Because that's the biggest thing, isn't it? Is that you shouldn't really suffer in silence, and the same goes for men as well. You know, we always think of, you know, losing a baby as, you know, the woman is really, you know, and obviously that does have a detrimental effect to a woman. But I know my husband really, he dealt with it in a different way, but he really did struggle, and that caused massive strain on our relationship, especially trying for a second child when we had a young child already. You know, that was even more difficult. So
I mean, I agree with you with regard to men, because we do see men as well at Time Norfolk, and often a man feels when there's a loss, when his partner or wife has a loss, that he has to be the strong one. He has to hold the family together. If there's siblings, he's got to look after those. He's the one that does the firefighting, maybe telling nanny and granddad how, you know, what's going on at the hospital, then trying to hold everything together. And often when we see a man, they will say to us, I've done all this. No one has actually really asked me how I am. It's not that I want to take it away from my wife or partner, but, you know, I'm feeling it too. And then they will say, I can't be strong forever. and I can't keep doing this. So there is a huge amount of pressure on men as well. We know that men grieve differently to women. Often a woman will say, I don't think he's really bothered because I'm sitting on the settee and I'm really emotional and he's gone out in his shed. But sometimes that's a way a man will deal with things in grief, and it can be very different, from a woman. But I think the biggest thing is it does affect families. You're right, Serena. It can break up families, the pressure that can come with a loss. It can affect other siblings, when that's going on within that relationship with mum and dad. It can affect the other siblings that are in that family. So I wish people could see the bigger picture and realise that when people are trying to get help, and we were talking about this today because Time Norfolk held a big baby loss awareness day today up at Greenacres in Watton near Norwich, and we had 70 health professionals there and funeral directors, and everyone is trying their best and realising that there is a need for the work that Time Norfolk's doing to support women and men. And I wish there was more of it, because we will often see people that have mental health issues because of a loss. And it's taken them a while to get through the system to get to us. And often that can have been avoided, and people having mental health issues because, they're much further down the line and they've been trying to cope on their own. Because one of the biggest causes of mental health is anxiety and depression, after a loss. The percentage of people that come to Time Norfolk that have raised anxiety and depression levels is huge. They're not normal by any manner of means with the percentage scores. When they come to us, we will monitor those scores to see later on, when they've had their support from Time Norfolk, what those scores are looking like towards the end. And, I feel very proud because we can say 90% of those scores go back down into normal range by the time people have finished work with Time Norfolk. So there's a huge amount of anxiety and depression and often trauma that goes along with a pregnancy loss. Now, if you put modern day pressures into that mix as well, having to go back to work, pressure by your employees to attend work, not have any time off, financial implications if you do have time off, it's a very big mix when people have a loss, that it just has that massive ripple effect throughout the family. So this is why I say to people, it does cause mental health issues. It can cause breakdown of families. It can cause a lot of upset for siblings as well. So it's about seeing the bigger picture. And when we talk about, as we've done, talking about infertility, imagine the woman who's maybe tried for a baby for 6 years normally. It doesn't happen. So they then try to get IVF, and maybe they'll have 4 rounds of IVF, so that will take them quite a long time. Then maybe they get pregnant on that last round. All their hopes and dreams are there again, as we spoke about a little while ago. And then they get to 25 weeks and they lose the baby. So if you work that out, you've got a normal gestation of pregnancy is 40 weeks. But this person may have been trying to become pregnant for nearly 10 years. And the highs and the lows of that, am I pregnant? No, I'm not. Am I pregnant? No, I'm not. If you can imagine what that would do to somebody, whether they're on their own or as a couple, it's huge. So they lose self-confidence. they become very uneasy with themselves, they have low self-esteem, the mental health issues kick in, they don't want to see their friends because maybe their friends have all got babies and family may have babies, so it can force them to become isolated in that they don't want to go out. They don't want to go back to work because if you're in that age range, then there's people at work who are maybe pregnant, and they are things that people can't deal with. You know, it's often a woman will say, it's not that I'm jealous, but I really, really just cannot cope with seeing a mum with a newborn baby, because that may have been the time when she was due to have her baby.
Mm.
So the thoughts of seeing a baby, a newborn baby at that time is really hard for that woman at that time. So they become isolated. They don't want to go out. They don't want to have a social life, and things just spiral downwards. So the whole thing is a huge ripple effect, as I'm sure you realise,
Yeah.
Serena. And you
Yeah,
talk
as you were talking about that, literally, so much of that resonates with me. But
mm,
I know for me, I only had sort of a year and a half of,
mm,
well, nearly 2 years of that, not 10 years. So I was just
mm,
thinking there, you know, how horrendous. I mean, I know people, close family members, who you know, have had gone through the IVF route and the, you know, and they've really, really struggled, and it has nearly broke down their relationships, and it's been very stressful on them. So I feel thankful that I didn't have to go down the IVF route in the end for me. But I think what you said about you know, mothers not wanting to see newborn babies, and that was very true for me when I was trying for Alfie. So that was now what, 3 years ago, 3, 4, started 4. What is Ella, 6? So yeah, 4 years ago we would have been starting to try for him, and I had a loss. The um second month we were trying, I fell, so I felt really lucky, but then had a loss later on down the line, and I at the time there was 4 of my friends and cousins all trying as well, and it seemed like, you know, I lost, then one of, you know, the others fell, then they lost, then they fell, then they lost, you know, then they were still struggling. So, and that was just like a little, almost these 5 of us had just, you know, fallen pregnant, you know, so
mm,
you'd that emotion, you'd feel happy for your friend, but then
mm,
sad because you had just lost, and then when they lost you would then feel like heartbroken for them, but also, it sounds horrible, but in a way glad because you wouldn't then see them have a baby, which then makes you then feel like an awful friend and an awful person. But I think your emotions are just all over the place, that,
mm,
you know, like you said, you think, I can't stand seeing someone have a baby at the moment close to me because you've lost yours, or you
yes,
can't, you know.
yes.
And then I couldn't fall, I lost that one, and then ended up, they left me, and I had a D&C, and it's very clinical. Anyone who's had a D&C will understand it's quite clinical and not nice at all. And I kind of then I couldn't fall for a year, so we just kept trying, and it just never, it didn't happen. And at that point, I think when I then did fall, well, I fell the month before um I fell with Alfie, and then lost again. And at that point, you know, we thought we're not going to conceive anymore. Then fell and was delighted again. And, you know, like you said, the hopes are, and the dreams
Mm,
are up there
mm,
again. And then we then lost. At that point, and probably just before I fell with him, I'd totally given up hope, and we just said
mm,
we won't have any more. We're happy with Ella, you know. That's, and kind of, I really did come to terms with the fact that that was it, really. So I was almost done in
mm,
a
mm,
weird way, and then fell with him, and then I had a condition called placenta previa with him. So it's where you probably know, but for people who are watching this later on replay, it's the where your placenta is low lying, and mine was literally right over my birth canal. So
mm,
the more he grew, the more that put pressure on my placenta, and I was bleeding all the time. So obviously, someone who's lost a baby and had a D&C, and you've bled a lot. Every time I then went in hospital, I was worried I was going to lose him, and I kind of almost said to myself, I can't get attached to this baby. It's not going to make it like the others. And I kind of almost every time I bled, that was right. That's it now. And I can remember one day the consultant in hospital, that was probably about my fifth stay, I think, something like that. And she came in and she said, if you don't stop, we can't stop the bleeding soon. That might be it for him or both of you potentially. And at that point, I thought, in a way, I was sad, but also I was quite angry that I'd still persisted to try when I had one at home and I could now leave her. So it was kind of, again, mixed emotions there. And I mean, I am so relieved and thankful, and just, I mean, and everyone at the hospital and that were just incredible. I can't, I never just, but I sometimes think I can't believe we got through it and out the other side. And but then when I then had him, it's quite interesting you say about mental health, because I've suffered depression for quite a few years. I had a divorce quite young, and that didn't end, it ended quite badly, and that sort of started things off for me. And after I had Alfie, I had this strange thing where it's probably quite common, really, now when I say it, I probably have people sort of comment on this at later saying it's a common thing, but at the time I never knew of it. But I basically just pushed Ella away completely. So in my head, I could only love one child, and in my head, because I'd been through so much to get Alfie, and he was the baby, in my head, he was the one that I had to be there for and care for. So, and now it breaks my heart to think that I pushed my daughter away. She was only 4 when he was born, so she's still very little, and it breaks my heart to think that. But it's strange how the emotion of losing babies, struggling to conceive, and then going through a condition through pregnancy and stuff, can mess your head up so much that you then come out of it. I was thankful, and he was an incredible baby. He really was, no trouble, like one of these, I'm really lucky. But I just think I still can't believe I should have been elated, but I wasn't. I went the other way. So and you must see those sort of scenarios quite a lot.
Yeah, we do see that quite a bit, Serena, and it makes a woman feel full of guilt, when they feel like that. And it's the attachment to whichever child, whether it's the baby that's just been born or your other child, and you can't seem to do both at that time. And you may have a woman who's tried for ages to have a baby and then has a baby successfully, and this is what they've wanted for so long, and then once this baby comes, there's these feelings of, I can't cope with this, I'm not a good mother, I'm not bonding with that baby, and how can this be, because that's all I ever wanted was a baby, and now I've got the baby. And there's all these feelings of, I don't want this baby. And what's this about? Because I've been wanting a baby for years. And that can be really hard for people to deal with, those sorts of emotions. And as I say, there then becomes a lot of guilt with it. But I think one of the biggest things is when people come in for a first session at Time Norfolk, they will often say, oh, are you still there, Serena?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I've lost you. I've got you, I can hear you, but I haven't got a picture now.
Oh, okay.
But they will often say, Lesley, I think I'm going mad. I don't know what's going on, but I feel I'm losing it. And actually they're not, but it's can go with the territory and all the sort of pre and postnatal depression that we've, you know, touched upon, and mental health issues. And it really can affect you in such a way that sometimes you're unable to cope with life in general. But for everyone, it's very individual, you know, on how they're feeling and what their capabilities of coping are. And, you know, if you've lost a baby, or maybe you've had, like yourself, Serena, several miscarriages, it's really difficult when you become pregnant and that pregnancy goes to full term and exactly like you were saying, am I still pregnant? Is there movement? When you have a scan, is there still a heartbeat? Because you've had all these miscarriages, it's in your mind the whole time. Is this baby going to survive? Will this baby be okay? And it's huge for people.
Well, I think for me, sometimes, like I said, I didn't want to get attached to him, and even before I knew it was him, I didn't want to get attached along the way. And then I think almost when then I started bleeding with the placenta previa, I almost was. I told myself he's gonna die, so just that's what's gonna happen. So don't get attacked. Like almost preparing myself for that to happen, so
Mm.
that when it did happen, I weren't disappointed.
Mm.
So so that really, I think, totally messed up my head, because I was almost pretending I wasn't pregnant, and also pretending that it was already over, so that I didn't have to face it if it did happen,
Yes.
and I so it's a weird. So, and I think that's probably why now I talk about it. When I did then have him, and that was all okay in the end, I then totally pushed Ella away, and a lot of other people, because I was literally like, I need to protect this egg that I have, this
Yes.
this
Yes.
very vulnerable thing that I never thought I would have in my arms, and I don't want to let anyone get him, you know, or hurt him, or
Mm.
yeah. So it's a really, I mean, luckily I'd had, like I said, had mental issues previous. So as soon as you know, one day I can remember just sort of pushing Ella to one side. You know, I didn't shove her, but I sort of moved her to one side and kind of said, just go. And I can remember then sitting there in tears, and like after just seeing the look on her face, as if to say, you don't love me anymore, mummy, what's going on? And that was enough, you know. So that only went on a few weeks, and then I realised and went to the doctors and sought help, and went down that route.
Mm.
But you know, for especially, I think a lot of first time mums, they go through a lot of um you know, postnatal depression and that kind of thing, because no one does prepare you for it.
No.
Like even if you have a healthy pregnancy, and you know, you're lucky, a short birth, and you know, everything goes to your plan, you still are not prepared for this thing that comes out of you, and you're literally like, what do I do with it? So I think, like you say, with when mothers have had losses and problems conceiving and different things going on, I suppose that just heightens that, doesn't it? That heightens that emotion, and that the hormones are all going round, and I think that just kind of makes it just heightened, I suppose.
Yes, yeah, you know, because at the end of the day, women have a mother's heart, and we can be very protective uh, of our children. And when things aren't as they should be emotionally, it can be really difficult. And you become, again, isolated. And again, what's wrong with me? And often people will come and say, I just want to get back to how I were. I know that I'm different and I don't want to be different. I want to be, you know, if I use your name, Serena, I just want to bring Serena back because they realise that something else is going on, and they're not themselves. And it's very difficult because, I think nowadays the stereotype of a mum is, mum has to go to work, mum has to do this, mum has to do that. And I think it's very different now for mothers, because the expectation is so great of a mum, to be the perfect mother. But what is that? What is the perfect mother?
Yeah. And I
Um,
think it was interesting you said a while ago as well, this word about guilt, and how I think as a mum, I think when you start, no one prepares you for this whole journey of what it's like, to even fall pregnant, and how your hormones are going to change, and how your body's going to change, and how your relationship's going to change, and how you're going to feel towards people, or and I think there's so much goes on there. No, I think it's quite funny. I can remember me and my partner, our first holiday to Mallorca, because we were only together 5 months when we decided to try for Ella. And I we were in Mallorca on holiday, and we just started talking about it, because there was a little, a baby on the other table with his parents, and lovely bonny little thing, and we just got started talking about it, and kind of said, oh no, it's too early for us, we've only been together a few months. And then we got back, and we sort of kept talking about it more, and it was like, and I can remember the evening where we sort of said, oh yeah, let's do it, and you're full of excitement, and it's that kind of, like, you're really just fully engaged with it, and you don't, you think, oh, I'll just fall pregnant, it'll take a couple of months, I'll fall pregnant, I'll have this lovely pregnancy, you'll see me sit there watching Friends with a bowl on my tummy, like in programs, and things like that, and you kind of think, yeah, birth's a bit bad, but you're just focusing on that child. And then I think when you start going down that journey of um especially thinking with Alfie, and kind of that falling and losing, and you're thinking it, you're thinking about pregnancy, you're thinking about babies, you can't think of anything else. You literally, it consumes your whole life, and just, I mean, I think at when the point where I said that I'd given up almost on having another child, I think at that point I was almost just sick of it. I was sick of people asking me when I was going to have another baby. I
yeah,
was sick of having to tell them that I'd lost babies. As soon as Ella hit 2, people were saying to me, when are you having another one? And I'd literally just lost the first one. So I felt I was just constantly, like, making excuses. I was constantly, I would laugh it off, or I'd be honest and then get upset. And it got to the point where, Lesley, to be honest, I was just exhausted by it all. And I was actually, do you know what? I want to forget about, trying for babies, and, I want, and as well, I actually want to enjoy a cuddle with my partner, and I want to enjoy a sexual relationship with my partner without worrying about, like, are we going to fall pregnant, or if we fall pregnant, are we going to lose the baby? Like, it just becomes exhausting.
yeah. I think you're right. It does become exhausting, and it's very all-consuming, isn't it? The whole "I've got to get pregnant" is very much, once you're into that mode, it can consume your whole life, because it's every month, isn't it? Working things out, and if it doesn't happen, then it's on to the next month, and so it goes on and on. And again, it's these very peaks and troughs of emotions and feelings, isn't it? Which
Yeah,
in itself is very tiring.
yeah. And you're also, you're if you're a few days late for your period or something like that, you're then getting excited, and then when it doesn't happen, it's just like a, and then you start, I know with me, I feel like going back to the guilt thing, feeling like I I wasn't um I wasn't a good enough mum to Ella to be able to give her a sibling. I wasn't a good enough a woman because I couldn't fall pregnant again. That whole self doubt just totally consumes you, and you then think, well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I have a baby? you know, I had a baby first and that was okay, like what's going on with me? Like your partner then starts thinking there's something wrong with him, and you're kind of arguing, and it's just one big pile of crap, sorry, most of the
Yeah,
time. It's just absolutely horrendous. I think you have to laugh, because I think I'd cry at this point just thinking about it.
yeah.
It's just
But it is this
horrendous.
sense of failure, isn't it?
Yeah,
That people go through, man and woman, of, you know, failing to conceive, failing to have the perfect pregnancy, failing to have a natural birth. All these things, you know, mount up, and then you're left with someone with mental health issues because they feel an utter failure within the, you know, the whole thing. And you know, that can be really hard. And it's like when there's a loss, if someone miscarriages or stillbirth, it's that huge guilt thing of,
mm,
what did I do wrong?
yeah,
You know, did I lift those pots out in the garden? Did I not have the correct diet? You know, all those things, in that culture of blaming oneself, can become very intense with people. And again, it gives the person very low self-esteem. They can have voices in their heads telling them, you know, there's all this guilt and shame there. And people become, again, they withdraw from society because it's much easier just to
yeah,
stay at home and not face those questions, just like you were saying,
yeah.
Serena.
Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? You've got the self doubt, and the guilt and the failure and all those emotions, that you're self hating on yourself. But then you've also got, you know, people from the outside asking, you know, when you're when you're going to have another baby, or, you know, why aren't you trying yet, or and those sort of things. And then also, if they know you've lost, you've then got them saying, oh well, that's all right, you can try again, or oh that, you know. And you've got the outside influence as well, and it's literally just like you're going down a spiral of self-hate yourself, but then with the added external pressures and comments and little things, it's like I could probably have written a book with everything people have said to me. And I think I've spoken to a lot of women who have been in the same boat, and they've said the same. They're astonished at what sort of comments people come out with, really. But I suppose a lot of it isn't because people are doing it nastily, they're just trying to help, you know, help. But it's not so much, is it? I suppose that's why people, if they're going through this, come and write back to why I really want to talk to you, is that people need to go to someone professional who has experience in, you know, talking to and counselling and dealing with these type of issues.
Well, yes, it's a
People,
very specialist thing. And, you know, people will say, I can't talk to my family, I can't talk to my friends because this has been going on for a while now. And I feel they're fed up with me talking about it. So I can't talk about it anymore. So they take great comfort from coming to see a stranger, if you like, who's not going to judge them, who's not going to compare them to anyone else, and who's just going to have time to listen to them and, you know, to support them in whatever way is needed. And it's being able to give them that hope when they feel hopeless, and to enable them to move forward. Because until you've done the work, within that loss, you can't actually move forward to the next stage in your life. You become trapped in that whole cycle, you know, of all the things we've talked about, you know, the grief, the guilt, the shame, all those things, and you can't actually move forward from it. And that's why it's really, really good to come and, you know, get the support of somebody that can help you through that very difficult time, and to have an understanding of what you're going through. And whether you lost a baby when you were 6 weeks pregnant or whether you were 36 weeks pregnant, to have someone validate the fact that that was your baby and that we understand is huge for people who come to Time Norfolk, you know, and it's huge for them that we can say, give them permission to grieve for the baby that they've lost. And they're not coming into somewhere and saying, well, isn't it about time you got on with your life, dear? You know, that has happened and you need to move forward. And that's what people say to them.
Yeah.
You know, it's time you went back to work. If you did something, you know, it would change everything. But it doesn't always, and people have to be ready to go back to work. And I'm always grateful when I hear of employers that are very kind to their employees and will give them time off work to come and do the work with Time Norfolk. You know, and they recognise that if that person does that work, then when they do go back to work, they will stay in work. Because if you don't deal with it, it will probably, something will trigger it off later down the line, and then you will have time off from work anyway. So, yeah. But, you know, the whole thing about, you know, loss is, I feel that women who come to Time Norfolk are immensely courageous, because it's the worst time ever, as you've just rightly said, Serena, when you're going through a loss of whatever type. And, you know, to actually either pick up the phone or send an email from our website to say that you need help is huge. And to be able to speak to a stranger and tell them your most private feelings, you know, I just admire women and men that come to get help, because they're so courageous.
I think that's the thing, though. We've talking about, sorry, talking about it to you tonight is actually, and obviously we're going to post this on the group and online and share away. I think that is the thing, is actually making people who are going through any type of loss or difficulty around trying for babies or having babies or whatever it may be, is that you are not alone, and that there are so many people who go through this every day. And not to take away from your experience, because everyone's experience is different and unique and heartbreaking to them, but I think it's important to realise that there are other people going through it, and it's not just you. You're not alone, and there's support out there for people who just want to be able to work through it. And it shouldn't be a shameful thing, you know. It shouldn't be this elephant in the room. It should actually be, you know, and you rightly say it takes a lot of courage to be able to say, I'm not okay, and I actually do need the support, and I do need to talk to someone. I think sometimes people think once you go to counselling or to a doctor to go on tablets or whatever it may be, that you're almost admitting that you've got something wrong with you. Do you know what I mean? Or you're not keeping it together. But then that is not going to benefit you or your family from not seeking the support, is it really?
No, I agree. Which is why I think it's marvellous, Serena, that we're now recognising baby loss, and we have Baby Loss Awareness Week coming up. I just want to mention that Baby Loss Awareness Week is in Norfolk, it's in Norwich, and on Monday evening, City Hall will be lit up in pink and blue, and there's going to be something being carried out called Jessica's Wish, where there will be a lot of candles up outside City Hall, and people can light a candle for the little ones they may have lost. So if anyone's interested in that, you know, you can just turn up to City Hall, and it begins about 5:30, but the lighting of the candles will be 7:30.
Yeah,
That's
I think I've got the event on my
yeah,
Facebook, so I'll try and share it when I
yes.
post this
So
video out. I'll share all that in the comments. And
yeah,
also, would it be possible? Well, I've got your website details and everything like that, so I'll also post them with
yeah,
video.
yeah,
But if you just want to say how people will get in touch with you if they do
yeah.
feel they need that
I
support.
will. If I can just, before I do that, if I can just mention that on the 18th of October, at Norwich Cathedral at 7:30, we're holding a Doorway of Hope service. So that's to celebrate all the little ones that we've lost over the year. So if anyone has lost a little one and you want to come to a service and write in our memory book, light candles, it's an amazing service. It's very powerful. It's very emotional. But that's I'm sharing that with you. We'd love you to come and come and join us for that Doorway of Hope service. So that's again the 18th of October, and it's at 7:30. But that's on our website, and our website is www.timenorfolk.org.uk. And if you want to feel that you want to self-refer to us, which you can do, you can either telephone us, and the telephone number is on our website, or we have self-referral on the website. So what happens is you will fill in the self-referral form, and it will be me that picks it up. And then you'll get a phone call from us, and we'll have a chat and then invite you in for an initial appointment. But we're very keen, if you've had a loss and you feel that you want some support from anyone, do contact us, and we'd be happy to chat to you and see whether we can help you, and whether indeed you'd like to work with Time Norfolk.
Fabulous. I don't think there's any more that we need to say there. I think, Lesley, you're one of the most passionate women I've ever met.
Thank you.
Tell that you're really passionate for what you do, and rightly so, really, because that is a subject that affects so many, isn't it? So thank you so much. We'll leave it there because it's getting late, and you've had a busy day.
Yes, thank you for inviting me, Serena.
Sorry about the lack of technology with the live
Don't
software.
worry.
I don't know what's going on there, but we'll post this video straight up, so hopefully everyone who's watched now has watched on replay.
Okay.
So is there anything before we go that you want to say? Anything that we haven't touched upon?
I don't think so. I think we've touched upon quite a lot of things during our conversations. But for me, as you know, Serena, I'm very passionate about helping people who've had a loss. You know, and there's things like ectopic pregnancies, there's molar pregnancies, which people can suffer from. And so, you know, if you've had some of those rather out of the box type of things, you can still contact Time Norfolk. So, you know, if you've got any concerns at all and you want to talk to somebody, and you're not sure whether you fit our remit, if you like, then just give us a call and we'll be happy to chat to you.
Brilliant. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
I will just say before I go, like I always do, thank you to everyone who's watching or who will watch, because we'll be on replay. But our next chat show is a slightly more delayed than usual because I'm getting a rare holiday in a couple of weeks. So the next one will be on the 30th of October at 8 p.m. And we're keeping with the baby theme, talking about the business of babies. So we're talking to a couple of ladies who are in working in the baby industry, with one lady's from a parent and baby show, and the other one is works as cherished placentas, which basically does something with placentas to feed it to women. I don't really understand, but I'm sure we'll get to understand. So that's at the 30th of October. So I will see you all then. It's bye from me and bye bye from Lesley. Thank
Bye.
you very much, Lesley. Take care. Bye.
Bye.